There are some things in life that aren't really supposed to be open to interpretation. Speed limits, instructions from your girlfriend, the European Union financial guidelines. I'm looking at you, Greece. But lucky for us, songs and music, definitely on acoustic guitar, are very open to interpretation. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how maybe you can take a song, interpret it on acoustic guitar, and we are going to be using as an example the song I did with Allie, the great Beatles song, Come Together. So maybe if you haven't seen that, I will link you to that if you want to check that out first. A lot of people have kind of requested like a lesson on how to do it, but I thought I'd just kind of like take you into what I think is a good way to kind of maybe take a melody and try to make it your own. Because like, let's face it, like if you're just trying to play like a Beatles song straight up just like they played it, there's a 0% chance that you're going to be able to play it anywhere nearly as well as they could do it. So you might as well take that as an opportunity, or any other song, to kind of try to put your own spin on it and make it a little bit different and kind of impart some of your musical personality on it. So these are just kind of a couple ideas that I use when I try to do these on my channel, right? So Come Together is an awesome song, really like a fantastic riff, and the actual way to play it, it's kind of a combination between a guitar line and a bass line, and it all starts on this D note. So the 10th fret of the E string, we're going to start here, and like the guitar is doing something like this. It's like 10 E twice, down a string to the A string, 10, 12, and then you're kind of getting maybe like a dyad where either you're just hitting the 10th fret on the D string. Kind of melodically, what I hear most from the guitar is just like that. So 10 E, 10, 12 A to 10 D. While the bass is doing something like that, right? Which is kind of the same thing. It starts out the same way. Then we go to the 10th fret on the G string, and then back to the octave D. Okay? So the way I was kind of trying to incorporate that in an acoustic guitar setting, it's ended up sounding like this. And that kind of brings us to maybe what the job of an acoustic guitar is if you're in like an acoustic guitar duo or playing with a singer or like accompaniment or just singing yourself. Is the disadvantage you're at from trying to recreate like a full band song, like a Beatles song, is that, you know, there's one guitar that can create a lot of space just doing that, and the bass can kind of complement that at a lower octave, then the drums are kind of keeping the time. You know, you're kind of at a disadvantage of recreating that entire atmosphere with just an acoustic guitar. So the advantage that an acoustic guitar player has is they can kind of incorporate the melody into chords. So that's what we're going to talk about for this first part, is I'm choosing to kind of play this D to its fourth, which is a G to an A, except in an open position. And the reason I'm using an open position is because now we can kind of incorporate fuller sounding chords into what we're doing to kind of give more of like a, you know, an atmosphere to it, instead of just kind of trying to sing over a single line, which might sound kind of puny on just an acoustic guitar with a vocalist, right? So we're gonna, instead of playing the D on the 10th fret of the low E string, we're gonna hit the D as an open string. Hit it twice, and we're gonna kind of do that same riff, but open D, open G, hammer on to the A here, is the same thing as like that. And then we're gonna add the C note, right, the first fret there, but we're gonna kind of play all these within the context of this chord. So if I have open D, open G, or open D, 2G, 1B, and open E, I'm kind of getting this chord as a glue in which to insert an interpretation of the melody, okay? Another thing you can do is that slide right there, or that hammer-on right there, is something that sounds kind of cool on acoustic guitar. So definitely, any opportunity you have to incorporate slides or hammer-ons is kind of a must, I think, when you're talking about the accompaniment of an acoustic guitar. So that last time, this goes through 4 times, right? Maybe the last time do something a little bit different. So always, again, these are just my opinions. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But I always try to make it something when you have like 4 repetitive times in a row, try to maybe switch them up a little bit. So that last time, maybe I go to the 5th fret and kind of come back, slide back. Again, it's all, my style is all kind of like the illusion of movement in a busy way that isn't kind of taking away from what the vocalist is doing. But essentially that's kind of how I got that main riff. So D, hammer on to a slide, or a hammer on. And I'm not worried about getting just the single note. Again, I think it sounds better in the context of gluing it together with chords, which brings us to the verse, okay? Now, again, in the real song, it's like a power chord blues shuffle thing played on an electric guitar. So it would be like a power chord on the 10th fret. Real kind of traditional blues thing going on where you have 10E and 12A, and then you're just using your pinky to get 14. You do kind of bursts of 2 hits each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then we do the same thing on an A, the 5th fret. To a G. And then back to the same kind of deal, right? So we're gonna take the essence of what this is, but translate it more to an open acoustic guitar sound. So when you wanna maybe make a D power chord up here, we're doing the same thing, but I'm grabbing open D, 2 on the G string again, which is a D, it's 5th, and another D. So right here, this doesn't have a third. It's not a major or a minor, right? So it's still kind of keeping the tradition of the D power chord intact, but maybe sometimes I'm hitting that open E string to kind of give it a suspended sound. And just like down here, where you're taking the 5th and going up a step, I'm doing the same thing, the 5th being the 2nd fret on the G string, and grabbing it with my ring finger, 4th fret of the G string. So now we have more of an open sounding thing that you can still kind of add like that extra blues shuffleness to it by extending it 1 more fret with your pinky on the 5th fret. But still in the context of an open chord. So you're kind of making a strum. Again, I'm muting it because this is a verse and we're kind of making a dynamic version of this. We can do the same thing with the A chord. Instead of doing the power chord here, we can take maybe like an open A power chord, open A, 2D, 2G. It might look like an A major, but I'm really not too concerned about hitting that B string. Doing the same thing, its 5th is the 2nd fret on the D string, going to the 4th fret right there. We can still do that same thing with your pinky, going up another half step. And then by the time we get to the G, it's like, you know, got to be good looking, he just do what he please. That part. Now, we can kind of utilize some of the open strings that really make an acoustic guitar sing. So by the time I get to this, I'm kind of doing a G7-ish thing where I have a G power chord, 3E, 5A, open D string, so another D. My middle finger is on the 4th fret of the G string, which is a B, which is the major 3rd of a G chord, an open B string and an open E string. And then you can kind of dynamically ride that. So the whole verse would be like da 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 to the A. And then into the. So that really kind of maintains the essence of the song, but in a slightly different way that I think kind of sounds pretty cool on an acoustic guitar. Now, the chorus is going to be another part we're going to talk about. The come together right now over me. So again, you can kind of hear in the original version of the song, those are just kind of like power chord hits that the whole band is doing. It's just a B to an A to a G, back to A. That starts the whole thing over again, right? So now this is where you can kind of take fuller chords on an acoustic guitar, which is something that sounds really good. And again, so we're going to start, instead of playing a B power chord, I'm going to go straight up B minor. And then for that A, instead of doing like just an A chord or A power chord, I'm just going to keep the same chord, open up the root note to kind of get this, you know, keeping this chord here as a glue. B, add the A to the G, which, now here we go. Now we're talking Sean Daniels style. We're making this a major 7 chord. So instead of a regular G, we're kind of keeping this shape intact, starting with the B minor, opening the A string, adding the G, and by the time you get to the G, we've kind of actually changed the composition of the chord into a G major 7 instead of a G major or a G power chord. And if you've seen some of the other acoustic interpretations I do, basically the main rule of thumb is just to turn every single thing into a major 7 chord at any possible time. In fact, my first pass through on trying to do this one, I was trying to see if I could get away with doing like a major 7. But it really just wasn't working. I swear though, I tried. I tried my best. So we've got a B minor, change the root note to an A to a G, and then maybe go back to that A, but again, what's cool about acoustic guitar, especially in this key, the open strings can help us out. So instead of just an A power chord, I'm playing an A major bar chord where I leave the B and the E string open, and you get that big kind of open sound that'll bring you back to. So again, that's just kind of like one way that you can take a couple examples of, you know, what I think is like the essence of an all-time great song, and then maybe reinterpret it. And how you interpret it is totally up to you. Like I said, I kind of like using the openness of an acoustic guitar in certain keys to kind of get those big kind of chimey chords going on, right? Maybe you can do something a little bit darker. You know, you can always change major chords to minor chords, stuff like that. Another one that people seem to like was the Seven Nation Army cover that we did, where instead of the... Again, that's another good example of an awesome riff that is almost impossible to pull off acoustic, because if you just play the, you know, riff without, you know, the help of like a drum or just kind of like an aggressive sounding electric guitar, it can be kind of a challenge. So again, I'll link you that one too. But basically it's like a jazz version of it where these notes are in the key of E minor. So you take an E minor chord. I'm gonna fight 'em all. The Seven Nation Army couldn't hold me back. That's the same thing where I'm taking the essence of the riff, but turning them all into chords around an E minor chord. So the gravity of the song is E minor. I'm adding the notes to the chord, and in the process, I'm actually making different chords. I don't have to really even know the names of the chords I'm making. It can be helpful, for sure. But of course, like when I do this, by the time I get to the C, there's another major 7 chord. So, you know, that would kind of be consistent with what I generally like to do whenever I try to interpret songs and put, you know, my own spin on it or whatever. So just a couple of ideas. Anytime you're trying to maybe play, especially like an electric guitar song or even like a piano song on an acoustic guitar, look up the chords if you can't figure them out yourself. You know, there's like tons of tabs and chord charts out there for popular songs. And then just kind of start manipulating them. Maybe try to find different ways to do it, because you might be surprised at how much your awareness of the fretboard grows when you're actually not just on a chord sheet or just following a tab note for note. When you're actually trying to use a little bit of creativity and trying to find out maybe like the things that you like about guitar and like the chord voicings that you really gravitate towards, is only going to help you find your own voice as a musician, which I think is super important in your creativity and just your overall satisfaction of guitar playing. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps you picking up your acoustic guitar, electric guitar, whatever instrument you play on, and you just keep coming back and getting better and better. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, the website, or the comment section. I'll get back to you all soon. Thanks a lot.